All right, happy Tuesday. Welcome to Frontline, 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. We begin some news out of Pennsylvania, where President Trump is shifting from peace talks to paychecks, visiting the iconic Mack truck plant and doubling down on his promise to bring American manufacturing back. I'll get to this in a little while. Plus, in a now deleted off-colored X post, Israeli defense researcher Benny Sabti said, quote, maybe the USA needs another Pearl Harbor or 9/11 to remember who is the enemy and who is the friend. Not exactly the kind of advice Americans are looking for from our greatest ally, allegedly. Also, Bill Pulte has officially arrived at the nation's top intelligence office, and the pink slips are raining down. Trump's handpicked acting chief is reportedly already making massive cuts. The so-called deep state, not so happy, but then again, it's probably the point. And Senator Rand Paul says he's not done with Anthony Fauci just yet, pushing to subpoena the former COVID czar over what he calls years of unanswered questions. But will anything come of it, or is just another trip around the Washington merry-go-round? But first, the grift continues, and the fraud they tell us isn't happening keeps happening. $6 billion this time around. Let's do this. We told you this was the one-stop shop for fraud reporting to keep you up to date. Well, here you go. So much fraud that it's actually, this segment's happening 2 times in a week span. We're back with the Grift Report. Just so much money is being lit on. Before you go off, liberals on Elon's trillionaire status, let's talk about the, $900 million Obama Center that turned out to be a concrete toilet, and the $6.5 billion in fraud the DOJ just lined out in today's presser.
We've charged 455 defendants across 56, like I said a minute ago, U.S. attorneys' offices, and 45 U.S. states and territories. As alleged in the various indictments, these individuals participated in healthcare fraud schemes involving over $6.5 billion in false claims submitted to Medicare, Medicaid, and other healthcare programs.
Well, hot damn. So the stuff the left says isn't happening is apparently happening again. And the same people telling you that these are the same people that take 3 weeks to count votes. They're also saying that there's no fraud in that either. Sure. How many more examples do you need to show that the entire system is rife with fraud and needs to be completely overhauled?
For those states that refuse to get serious about fraud, we are going to turn off that anti-fraud money. And if we continue to find problems, we can turn off other resources within their state Medicaid programs as well.
Yes. I feel like the only solution is to stop everything. Stop every welfare program, every Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security and housing and SNAP and everything. And before you freak out, just make everybody reapply with verification. And maybe clearly redefine what program actually is and what it's eligible for. Look, folks, before you freak out, I realize this would be a massive inconvenience for a lot of law-abiding citizens, but we have no choice. We cannot sustain this level of fraud. This is just what we're catching. We're $40 trillion in debt. And I wouldn't have such an extreme view of shutting off everything if I thought every state was on board with helping us stop the fraud. But that's not the case. California is taking it another step further. They're not trying to stop anything. They're actually finding new ways to make it harder to expose it. Nothing says nothing to see here. If you go looking for it, we'll sue you. California has a pending bill that would make it more difficult for Californians, or literally anybody, including press, to obtain government records. They're putting more effort into making it harder to expose fraud than they are in trying to stop the fraud itself. This leads me to question if the people making the laws are also in on the grift, which is not impossible. They're proposing a new bill that would allow the government agencies they have under their jurisdiction to delay responding to certain FOIAs, or Freedom of Information requests. They can charge you now if you request government documents that they obtained under the taxpayer dollar. They can charge you again $22 to $66 an hour to search for those records. And if they don't like what you're looking for, the government, if this bill passes, God forbid, can then sue you for requesting it. And if they think you're using it for malicious reasons, remember, California Democrats consider Nick Shirley exposing fraud as malicious. This is on top of the bill literally nicknamed the Stop Nick Shirley Act, AB 264, to criminalize investigative journalism. And they're openly just saying this stuff.
Can you give us your opinion? Thank you very much. Can you give us your opinion really quick on AB 2624?
I think you're a psycho scam artist, so
You think I am? Please disclose how you think that.
He's the scam artist, right? The guy exposing it. Psycho scam artist now? Like, I'm not a lawyer, but I can read. And the First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging from the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people to peaceably assemble to petition the government for redress of grievances, which it's a grievance if you're stealing my money. I feel like this law might be in violation of that, but again, not a lawyer, so what do I know? But Minnesota, same thing. These people denied the very existence of fraud forever. They even actually fired or disciplined people for raising concerns about it until people were arrested by the feds. Then they tried to say, oh, look, we're doing everything we can to weed it out. Tim Walz went out there and took credit for what J.D. Vance's fraud coalition was doing. Yet they did nothing. Nothing when $9 billion taxpayer dollars were funneled out of their economy into Somalia. And I only bring that up because they may have the judges in on it too. Because yesterday, a judge just blocked a grand jury subpoena of Tim Walz and others into calling them, they're calling them the abusive retaliatory process to punish Walz based on his refusal to assist President Trump's immigration crackdown. Do you know how rare it is for a judge to intervene on a grand jury subpoena? But hey, orange man bad, right? Even for judges. Speaking of which, they're defending these judges. They're defending SNAP too, because they're trying to get unhealthy foods out of the SNAP program so people are healthy. Remember, this was like a focus of J.D. Vance and the fraud task force.
I actually think that we should take food stamps away from dead people. I'm guilty of that. I think that's a reasonable thing.
Well, it turns out nobody actually can defend against SNAP to dead people because, well, they're dead, which is happening, by the way. So the judges are grabbing at whatever they can on this initiative. In this case, a judge I looked at her background briefly, and she has approximately, give or take, 0 nutritional degrees, has said that Trump can't actually cut sugary and unhealthy foods from the SNAP program, saying basically, in a nutshell, you got to keep funding soda and Doritos for the people on the government dole. I mean, maybe the judge missed, I don't know, the name of the program, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Show me where anyone has deemed soda and Doritos and Oreos or whatever else nutritional. It's in 0 places. Let's be honest. It's not like Trump is like, I want to make people miserable on SNAP. He's not saying that. He just thinks that people on SNAP benefits are, in fact, statistically, and it's not him saying this is data, statistically, if you're on SNAP, you are more likely to be overweight than people not on SNAP. The majority, 78% of people who received SNAP benefits in 2022 were covered by Medicaid, too. So get fat on government benefits, then need more medical care that is covered by benefits of taxpayers. Got it. Okay, so obesity cost about $173 billion last year. That's more than the entire SNAP program. And much of this is subsidized by our tax dollars. This is an effort to get people to stop eating so much junk so people are healthier, so they stop spending so much money on avoidable healthcare costs and dying early. I know that's so bad, right? A judge blocked this reform. By the way, remember when we shut down people's businesses during COVID? What was the line? I'm trying to remember. If it would just save one life, it would be worth it. Well, heart disease, primarily caused by being fat, is the #1 killer in America, killing almost 700,000 people a year. And this judge, doesn't want to address it. Like, is that negligent homicide? I mean, let's go there. They want to play. She wants to play games. Trump admin should play games too. Let's just set this standard right now. Anyone on Snap who dies of a weight-related cause, charge the judge. That ought to turn some heads. See if that changes her mind, because she is ruling despite the facts, arguably despite the law too. I mean, don't believe me? Here, look, quote, Snap participants at a heightened risk of death from heart disease and diabetes. Weird. I also thought the libs were against big corporations. Like, where is Elizabeth Warren on this one? Because $23 billion of SNAP benefits every year goes to soda produced mostly by Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Here, check this out. Just by excluding soda from SNAP while incentivizing fruit and vegetable purchases, we could prevent 93,933 cardiovascular disease events annually, which would save the taxpayer dollars of $4.3 billion over 10 years. That's another $43 billion over 10 years in taxpayer savings. But this judge kept that grift going. So you and I, who get up early, we exercise to be healthy and make sacrifices to buy healthy food, we have to keep subsidizing SNAP benefits for other people to buy soda with our tax dollars. You see the grift? Former Texas Deputy Attorney General Aaron Reitz and Newsmax legal analyst and former U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Alabama, J-Town. Jay, it's so blatant. What do you do at this point?
There, and there's a whole bunch of cases with district court judges making just absurd opinions today. And really the common thread through all of them is Trump cannot exercise his functions and duties as the chief executive. And the executive branch power answers to an unelected district court judge who will be overturned eventually by that happened also today in Washington, D.C. But it's keep them poor, keep the immigrants coming in, staying for as long as possible, and make sure that the orange man cannot exercise his powers as the president of the United States. And I say that as a legal analyst, I understand it sounds so tongue-in-cheek, but we've been dealing with this for 18 months now, Carl, and this is exactly what we've seen from the federal bench.
Well, and Aaron, there's no way you would have known about this. It literally just came in. A federal judge in California, I'm reading this off my phone, has issued a nationwide block on ICE's policy of conducting arrests at immigration courthouses. This is from the Court Listener, from the courtlistener.gov. I'm sorry, didn't the Supreme Court just say that these piddly judges can't issue nationwide injunctions?
Of course, that's what the Supreme Court ruled, but it doesn't matter. These district court judges don't care about the rule of law. They don't care about what, in their mind, Trump's Supreme Court is telling them to do. And so they're just going to keep pushing it until someone slaps them down. You know what happened to a totally unaccountable Democrat-appointed left-wing district court judge if they make one bad decision after another? Nothing, because they have lifetime appointments and they know it. And they get away with turning our country, Article 3, the judicial branch, into one of the most lawless branches of government today. We're living in a judicial coup. And during your monologue, you tapped through just a few examples. And this headline that's just coming down the pike right now is another example of that. Yeah,
Jay, here's another one that just came down. A Biden-appointed judge who, by the way, was not born here, born in like Tobago or something, and rules against our ability to make sure that the people voting in our elections are, in fact, citizens. This is her name is Judge Sparkle Sukanananan or whatever. Trinidad. She was born in Trinidad, not Tobago. This is like unbelievable.
Carl, so there's been now, this would be the 102nd nationwide injunction against Donald Trump in his 6 years, if you want to call it that, 6 years as president of the United States. The previous 44 years, only 64. He's had 244 policies blocked at the district court level in the 6 years he's been president. Only 39 between Biden, Obama, and Bush policies were blocked. And so this is all anti-Trump. There's really no other way to say it. And Judge Sparkle, what she has done is she has basically said that the government can't check voter rolls with databases that it has created with information that it has because it violates an act that doesn't apply to the federal government. It's absolutely absurd what these district court. We have to start impeaching these federal judges.
Yeah, all in favor of a constitutional amendment to not allow people named Sparkle to be judges, say aye. It's so stupid. Yeah, Jay, the perfect example, though, of why we need a database to check citizenship, the thing that Democrats say never happens, just keeps happening. A Florida U.S. attorney, Redding Quinez, I believe his name is, announced that 3 non-citizens were convicted of illegal voting in relation to election offenses in federal court. Well, man, how does this keep happening? We were told it wasn't happening.
Right. The thing that never happens has happened again. And this is why Harmeet Dillon and the Department of Justice and Attorney General Todd Blanche are trying to seek the voter rolls from these states, because there are more people voting than live in a county in certain states, Arizona, California, others. So it's absolutely responsible of our federal government to want to ensure election integrity. And it's amazing how these blue states are fighting it so hard.
Yeah, I didn't even get to the fact that some judge is ruling us to take down a fence that we put up to keep Antifa from storming a courthouse. Jay, Aaron, appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Paul.
All right, coming up, the U.S. is set to begin mining for rare earth minerals in the Congo. What this means for Trump and how this is a huge blow to China and a massive win for America. My thoughts on that in a little while. But first, the New Yorkers are heading to the polls to decide if they want more socialists in Congress like Ma'am Danny, or if they'll just stick with the classic establishment bad at governing Democrats. I have a feeling they're going to go super far left. One of the good guys running against those Democrats, Anthony Constantino, going to join me live in a sec.
Coverage of the Trump rally is sponsored by Preserve Gold. Get wealth you can hold.
There's a reason the wealthy don't keep all their money in one place. We work hard our entire lives to build wealth for retirement. If your retirement dropped 30% tomorrow, would you be ready? Or would you just have to wait and hope it comes back? The last thing any of us wants is to watch our retirement accounts shrink every time Wall Street panics, the dollar drops, or global uncertainty rises. That's why so many successful Americans turn to gold to help protect their retirement. And Preserve Gold is the only precious metals company I trust and recommend. Let me be frank, gold is not for everybody, and I do not give financial advice, but I do urge you to get my free wealth protection guide from Preserve Gold and learn about a special offer to receive up to $20,000 in free gold and silver. Education is power.
Text Newsmax to 50505.
New Cologuard Plus?
Yep.
Colon cancer screening delivered to your door?
Check.
No prep?
Check.
Non-invasive?
Checkity check, check.
And it detects 95% of colon cancer, similar to colonoscopy.
Checkity check.
The Cologuard Plus test is for people 45 plus at average risk. False positive and negative results may occur, not for those at high risk. Introducing Cologuard Plus. It's the box that checks all the boxes for screening. Ask your provider or request Cologuard Plus online.
Okay, so it's primary day for Maryland, New York, South Carolina, Utah, and South Dakota. But all eyes are on New York to see how far left they're going to swing, as Democrats head to the polls to elect socialists over already far left progressives. New York City Mayor Ma'am Danny is taking his newfound fame and pushing for socialists and members of the DSA, which is the Democrat Socialists of America. I mean, these guys are radical communists. While Hakeem Jeffries is on the other side of this, he's actually the moderate one here, backing the classic establishment Democrats. So I'm like super here for this infighting among the Democrats. It's great. But CNN reporting that the majority of Democrats are actually favoring the socialist candidates over capitalism.
But capitalism has absolutely fallen through the floor. Look at this. It's now just 42% of Democrats who have a favorable view of capitalism. Socialism, on the other hand, up like a rocket. Look at this. 2 in 3 Democrats have a favorable view of socialism. So socialism is on the rise among Democrats. Capitalism is on the decline among Democrats.
50 years ago, we threw people in jail for having those opinions. And 66% of New York City registered voters being Democrats. This should be an interesting night. My only hope is that after the primary, enough people are like, wow, maybe they voted Democrat their whole life, but they're like, I, in good conscience, cannot vote for something that has never succeeded, and they'll just hold their nose and vote Republican. All 3 far-left candidates we're looking at in New York are Assemblywoman Claire Valdez, running against Antonio Reynos in the 7th District, former New York City Comptroller Brad Lander against 10th District Rep. Dan Goldman, who's like a well-established guy in Congress for the Democrats, like carries the water for the Democrats. You got Daralizia Avila, I don't even know what her name is, but she's got a hyphenated name too, an educator and immigrants' rights activist against Adriano Espadilla in the 13th District. So let's take a look at some of their policies. Valdez wants 32-hour work week, abolish ICE, legalize strikes by federal employees who already get paid more than their civilian counterparts, by the way. Green New Deal, Medicare for all. Lander, 13 Supreme Court justices is one of his campaign promises that only, of course, would get appointed when Democrats take control. National wealth tax, abolish ICE, Medicare for all. This other woman, she hated Kamala, not for the same reasons I hated her, but said that Kamala wasn't far, look at her, it's always the glasses and the eyes, you can tell. Kamala wasn't far left enough for her. Not only does she want to abolish ICE too, but is against deporting illegal aliens even with a criminal record. She also wants a 32-hour week with no loss in pay from the 40-hour week. She wants government job guarantees, free child care, pre-K care, and free health care. This sounds like some Ma'am Danny minions. The only upside to this is let them go far to the left, and hopefully the middle of the road, like I said, comes back and just holds their nose and votes for Republicans. At least there's some sanity in this state, though. A Republican who's Trump endorsed, saying it's my great honor to endorse America First patriot Anthony Constantino. Anthony is strongly supported by many of the highly respected MAGA warriors in our movement, including Mayor Rudy Giuliani, Roger Stone. Anthony has been such a great supporter that he actually put up a somewhat, quote, controversial sign against strong opposition in my honor. The sign is still there, and that controversial sign went up back in October of 2024, and he was in a battle with Kathy Hochul over a vote for Trump sign that was so controversial. Weird. The man himself, New York Republican congressional candidate Anthony Constantino, who wears shirts only made in America. All right, dude, I mean, you got notoriety from that for sure. How far left can these people go and still hold on to the state?
Well, there's something really wrong with the Democrat Party. I was actually speaking to Greg Kelly of your station just before I lit up that sign, and he said, I can't believe the Democrats are going to fine you over this sign. I said, no, they're threatening to throw me in jail. I had to hire great lawyers. My lawyers beat the Democrats in court, and I ended up not going to jail. Now I'm running for Congress, and I can tell you there's a big problem in New York. There's a big problem with the Democrat Party nationally, and there's a problem in New York. We need to get tougher Republicans fighting. That's why I decided to step forward. I'm proud to say I'm endorsed by the president. He just put up another post saying he's excited to work with me. I'm excited to work with him. But I have to tell people about the weak Republicans. I'm running against a very weak Republican who hates the president. And it just came out the other day that my Republican opponent's campaign has been led by a member of the Green Party, John Malloy. He was the president of the Young Green Party. He was caught protesting for the right to kill unborn babies. He had a sign that he wants abortion. Yeah, Republican. And this is the guy running my opponent's campaign. We have to root this type of behavior out of the Republican Party. We have to start winning.
But you've got people like Chevalier who admit that her socialism was brought on through the racial lens. I mean, listen to this.
I came to my politics of socialism, of democratic socialism, through a race lens, right? I was doing a lot of reading of the Black radical tradition. I was doing a lot of organizing. Racial justice and economic justice have always been inextricable.
She's just using words, like doesn't even know what they mean.
No, she doesn't know what she's talking about. People from all different cultural backgrounds, like President Trump. I actually had a rapper at the Vote for Trump sign language. He made a song in support of the president with Dave East and Votto, two highly respected New York rappers. And then the Republican I'm running against attacked me for making that rap song. He put a picture of me with a black guy, and he said Anthony is with a Democrat. So we need to get strong Republicans in New York that want to court all people. I'm running against a guy that talks like that girl. It's very strange.
Yeah, no, it really is. Well, look, Anthony, I wish you the best of luck, man. Appreciate you joining us.
We're going to have a big night tonight. It's going to be a big celebration on Sacandaga Reservoir, and I look forward to representing everybody soon.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. All right, coming up, a bloody Juneteenth weekend in Chicago leaves 40 people shot. And instead of talking about what went wrong, Chicago Dems point the finger at, oh, that's right, Trump and the algae. We got 2A Tuesday panel sounding off on that next.
A new president is sworn in. America's greatness is restored. Millions of Americans are tuning in to Newsmax. Even President Trump says Newsmax is terrific. Watch Newsmax or download our free app on your TV or phone today.
Like a relentless weed, moderate to severe Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms can keep coming back.
Break away to what's possible with Tremfya.
The only IL-23 blocker for Crohn's and UC to offer self-administration from the start.
Tremfya can help with symptom relief as early as 4 weeks, remission at 12 weeks, 1 year, and 2 years.
Some had visible repair of their intestinal lining. Serious allergic reactions, increased risk of infections or lower ability to fight them, and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or need a vaccine. Break away with Tremfya.
Backed by over 15 years of clinical research. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today.
There are things you can do every day to take care of your brain. Exercising, eating well, getting plenty of sleep, staying mentally active, and staying connected with friends and family are all great for your brain. Prevagen can help supplement these good habits because it's made for your brain. Add Prevagen to your daily routine and give your brain the care it deserves. Prevagen, for your brain.
I'm Elmer Heinrich, at 92 years of age with my wife Shirley, who is 83. Now, both of us are still cutting a wide swath in life, all because of Immuno 150. Now, we are asking you to use Immuno 150 like we do. Give it a chance for at least 90 days so that you can see what 70 plant minerals and 80 additional nutrients can do for you.
It really is incredible.
Don't place your order until after you've watched the 3 videos on our website.
Stop trusting foreign antivirus to defeat foreign-made ransomware. American-made PCmatic protects your family, your home, and your workplace. Go to PCmatic.com. Built by Americans to protect America.
Summer is coming fast. Get your best body now with Sono Bello. Just one visit is all it takes to permanently remove stubborn fat.
I went from this to this in just one visit.
Our micro laser technology transforms your body.
My shirts were extra large. Now I'm wearing a bikini.
Sono Bello has over 50,000 5-star reviews and is America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist. Call now for your personalized consultation. That's over a $250 value. Free. Call Sono Bello today.
Average price for a gallon of gas? $4.43.
That's extortion.
Price for Paramount Plus? 99 cents per month for the first 2 months.
That sounds like a good deal.
You ready?
I love it.
Lots of other prices may be crazy, but ours is not. It's my home. The Paramount Plus summer sale. Just 99 cents per month for the first 2 months.
All right, 2A Tuesday, let's do some gun stuff. Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson can't get a hold of his own city, and now he's clashing with President Trump after a really deadly weekend in his own city over Juneteenth, leaving at least 6 people dead and dozens more injured. All of this in a city with some of the toughest gun laws in the nation. Weird. So when do the excuses run out, though? Clearly not soon enough, since Johnson came back blaming Trump for the lack of funds.
The failure of this administration is that he is more interested in tweeting or posting evil and inhumane projections of people and our humanity than he is actually willing to put money into the very communities that he ostensibly offers some degree of care for.
No, that's not right. Okay, whatever. Host of Bearing Arms Cam and Company podcast, Cam Edwards, and the Second Amendment columnist at Breitbart News, AWR Hawkins. Cam, money, I feel like money's not going to solve the problem because some of the states with the most poverty actually have really low gun crime.
Yeah, well, and most of the country is still seeing a decline in murder rates right now. Chicago's not. Homicides are up almost 10% so far this year, but Chicago's the outlier. So whatever is going on in Chicago, it's not a lack of funds. It's not because President Trump doesn't care enough. Maybe they should start looking at the failure of the gun control laws in Illinois. Maybe start putting criminals behind bars. I mean, I know that that's a scary concept for the left, Carl, but you know, in Illinois, they've got the Safety Act. It basically releases criminals by default, no cash bail. And even when they're put on electronic monitoring, you've got a repeat violent offender who's let go and told to show up in court. Every day that they spend on electronic monitoring counts as a day behind bars for their sentence. So you've got violent offenders who are essentially walking away with time served.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
But it really is ridiculous. But AWR, Trump called out J.B. Pritzker over the violence in Chicago in a post on Truth, saying at least 39 people injured, 4 dead in Chicago weekend shootings. Governor Pritzker, as president, I can fix this fast and permanently. D.C., Memphis, New Orleans, all down record lows. Quickly, call me. But then Pritzker was asked if he had a response to that post where he shifted. And this is hilarious. Just watch.
This is the president that thought that he could hire an unqualified company to paint the reflecting pool and then thought that it would just be free of algae, and yet days later it turned into an algae sea. I don't think that we should be listening to this president about promises that he makes or that he has any idea how to protect us in the state of Illinois.
Oh, because algae grows in water. You have 40 people shot.
Right. Well, you know, and to Cam's point, they have every gun control. They don't have as many as California, but they're right behind them if you count the gun control that is particular or specific to Chicago and then the gun control throughout the state of Illinois. These people don't want help, though. They want a grandstand because of their ideology. Trump has proven. There's no question. Trump can roll in with the National Guard and start fixing this. A combination of National Guard, armed citizens, concealed carry, and strict jail sentences, as Cam mentioned. If you do that combination, this problem disappears within 6 months. I'll give you 9 months if you think I'm being too crazy, but it won't take long to fix this. They just don't want to fix it.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Cam, the other thing, their state is priorities super messed up. Despite just one reported killing of a trans person, now Johnson has declared a state of emergency over the alleged epidemic of trans people being murdered in the city. There was one. But how about the nearly 200 other murders, most of which were black people killing other black people that he refuses to help?
I mean, again, this is political correctness run amok, right? You know, every life matters, Carl. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
And if Chicago, and I believe that Chicago does have a crime emergency, but it's one, again, entirely, as AWR said, entirely of the Democrats' own making.
Yeah.
So I would encourage the mayor, I would encourage the governor, take the president's help. You know, surge law enforcement in there, surge the National Guard in there, because Donald Trump's right. Crime is down to historic lows in D.C. and in Memphis and other places where they've been welcomed with open arms.
Yeah. Real quick, AWR. Trump said something today that got my attention. Roll this.
The NRA, everybody, they really have been. They've been with me right from the beginning. And Bill asked me, would I support the national right to carry legislation? How do you feel about national right to carry? National right to carry. Yeah, we're working on it.
Working on it. Let's go.
Right. Yeah, Carl, I covered this at Breitbart today. You know, in 2015, September 18th, 2015, when he was making his first run for office, he released position papers. And in those papers, he said the right to self-defense doesn't end at one's driveway. It certainly doesn't end at a state line. And he voiced his support for national reciprocity then. Again, that's September 2015.
Yeah.
He's been consistent. We need to get this moving. We need Congress to get off their butts, Carl, and get something done.
Congress
because
passed
I believe
it.
Trump will sign it.
Yeah, Congress passed it, sitting in the Senate with Democrat, John Thune, whatever. Anyway, Cam, AWR, we appreciate it.
Thanks, Carl.
Coming up, according to Pennsylvania's governor, the real party of freedom is the party that tries to take away your guns, tries to mutilate your kids, and force you to get a vaccine. Culture Clash, next.
I'm Michael Savage, and I was conservative before conservative was cool. Do you realize how crazy the liberals in this country have become? I do. You want to get me started today? I'll get started. Watch Michael Savage and the Savage Nation every Sunday night.
Healthy aging support starts here with the innovative nitric oxide science pioneered by humans, supporting your body from the heart out through circulation, blood flow, blood pressure, and energy. Results you can feel, science you can trust. Save up to 40% off on Amazon Prime Day.
Booking private used to be a gamble. Not with Fly USA. It's flying where you want, when you want, stress-free. A US-based concierge will provide real options, fast. Find any size jet, anywhere, with transparent pricing and 5-star service. No matter business or pleasure, let Fly USA elevate your travel. Fly like a pro with Fly USA. Book your first flight at flyusa.com and use promo code USA for up to $5,000 off.
Sensitive mouth and gums? Ever heard of Closest mouthwash? Your dentist and hygienist have. They know Closest is ultra gentle for sensitive mouths with non-burning mouthwashes that freshen breath, improve gum health, and strengthen teeth. Closest, the gentle mouthwash for sensitive mouths.
You can join the Tunnel to Towers mission to do good by donating your car to today's veterans. Your car donation will help Gold Star families, as well as injured veterans, our first responders, and our homeless veterans. Donating your car is quick and simple. Any car is accepted, and we will pick up the car for free. Simply call 844-BRAVES.
By donating your car, you can make a real difference. You can do good.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at gettrumpwatches.com. Please make a great gift. It's Trump time.
Some people think just because you have a disability, they put limits on you, but you have to prove them wrong.
You are not what society thinks of you. You are so much more than that.
Donate $15 a month to Special Olympics to get someone with an intellectual disability onto the playing field and give them the chance to show the world what they can do.
I did it! Yeah!
Go online, call this number, or scan right now.
What if you could have shades like these for a fraction of big brand prices? With Shady Rays, you can. We're an independent company, so we do things differently. We offer high-quality polarized shades for a reasonable price. And we personally replace shades that get lost or broken. So far, we've racked up over 300,000 5-star reviews. I founded Shady Rays so that we can have sunglasses that stand up to whatever life throws at us. Order now and get 20% off site-wide at shadyrays.com.
When curiosity strikes about the everyday lives of your family, we're here with answers only your ancestors can provide. See their stories at Ancestry.
I thought Josh Shapiro was like the rational guy in the Democrat Party, but apparently not. I take the cake for this one.
I think Democrats are the party of real freedom that allows women to make decisions over their own bodies, allows parents like me and my wife Lori to make decisions over what vaccines our kids are going to be able to get, that they can read the books that they want to read, not have certain one banned by certain politicians.
The same party that wants to steal my money via taxes at gunpoint, the party who wants to take away my guns, censor my free speech, demand my kids learn about trans weird stuff, encouraging them to mutilate themselves, and demanded everybody get the vaccine or they'd lose their jobs, apartments, and they locked us out of restaurants to tout freedom to get a vaccine that he wouldn't have allowed me not to get. Excuse me, Josh, I'm having a hard time believing Democrats believe freedom in any aspect. Newsmax contributor Kay Smythe and host of Tony Katz Today, conveniently named Tony Katz. Kay, I just really got confused hearing that one.
Yeah, bless his heart. Maybe that was what the Democrats were all about, but I don't know where he's been for the last 10 years. Definitely not in America, judging by that kind of response. Listen, I think that if everyone did come out in the Democrat Party and act a little bit more like Josh Shapiro in that very short clip, literally just that tiny little clip, other than the, he was sort of alluding to abortion, which is obviously killing a child. Other than that one little bit, I think the Democrats would actually do really, really well to mirror his ethos, to, backtrack on the insanity that you so eloquently listed there. And maybe they would have a shoe-in in not destroying everything that their party has built over the last, 250 years.
Weird.
Maybe.
Tony,
I don't believe we'll see that.
Speaking of people who've lost their minds, socialist Colorado congressional candidate. This is what unemployable people do now. They just run for Congress on the left. Malat Kairos is campaigning on a trans Bill of Rights. Roll it.
Some of the things that we're adding in, there's also a trans Bill of Rights. I think we have to be so forceful and clear and aggressive in our protection and our advocacy for the trans community, especially for trans kids.
These people are apocalypse food. All of them. 5 minutes.
So a couple of things. To the point of Governor Josh Shapiro, I don't believe that the party of slavery can now lecture me about being the party of freedom. That's a very hard one to swallow and to engage with. And then to part two this thing, to the horror show of what this woman is discussing. The party of wanting to mutilate children cannot possibly be the party of freedom, because to mutilate children is to utilize force. Now, understand, she isn't about protecting kids. She isn't about supporting kids. She is about mutilating kids. And there are more than her. These socialists and communists who have been running for office and having success, like we saw in New Jersey in the primaries, like we saw with Mamdani, like we saw in Seattle, and like we're seeing the big New York primary going on right now. This is who they are. This is not a party of freedom. This is a party of force. And the party of force is saying, let us force children into these impossible situations. Let us confuse them. Let us harm them. Let us hurt them, because that will hasten what it is we desire, which is the destruction of Western civilization, and no one can be free if Western civilization doesn't exist.
Right, but it's apparently all this trans stuff is good for kids. And just here's a perfect example, Kay. The 15-year-old Dutch girl who identified as a trans boy but was a girl, and later then established himself as a dog, went on ahead and stabbed her parents to death and then took pictures of their bodies and blood and sent it to her class group chat. Yeah, maybe it's not good.
Yeah. Do you mean that not treating mental illness as soon as it rears its head is not good? Right. This is a girl who told everyone that she was a boy, then told everyone that she was a dog. And every single person who sat there and went, oh, yeah, well done, that's a good thing. Well done on your individuality. Oh, you're so special. Every single person is complicit in what she ended up doing, which is probably one of the most horrific things that you can do. And it's heartbreaking. It's devastating. Her parents clearly loved her, but there's a huge difference. Nailed it. They absolutely failed her. And this is awful. It's so sad. I wish that none of this had come to pass. And it wouldn't have if there had been that early intervention when she started talking about the fact that she was a different gender, which is not a thing.
Out of time, guys. Got to leave it right there. Tony, Kay, we appreciate it very much.
Take care.
All right, coming up, the U.S. hands another blow to China, this time in Africa. Why it matters? Big time. Next.
Ever wished you could brew your own beer, but figured it was too complicated, too messy, too much effort? Well, now you can. Meet Pinter, the home beer system everyone's talking about. Fresh beer, brewed and tapped by you. No fuss, no guesswork. Just brew, chill, tap, done. You can craft 12 pints with every brew. Crisp lager, juicy and hoppy IPAs, smooth stouts. Plus, brew beers from top craft breweries you know and love. From the first tap to the last toast, hosting just got an upgrade. Nothing beats sharing your own fresh beer with friends. You don't need a garage brewery. You don't need a chemistry set. You just need a pinter. Right now, get your pinter free when you join our flexible beer plan. Choose your beers, brew fresh at home, and tap into the world's best beer experience. Free pinter. Freshly brewed beer. Zero fuss. Go to pinter.com/spring to claim your offer today.
I wish I wasn't afraid to smile.
I wish I could get implants.
I wish I knew who to trust.
I'm not looking for another quick fix.
I want a smile I know will last.
Clear Choice smiles are made to stand the test of time. They're built by dental implant experts, backed by 20 years of pioneering research and a lifetime warranty on premium arches. Our smiles are built for life. Schedule your free consultation today.
The first time I experienced vertigo, the room was spinning, like I was in a clothes dryer. Then I started taking LipoBalance support. Its ingredients are clinically shown to help reduce dizziness and spinning. Take back control with lipoflavonoid.
America's World Cup dream continues as Pulisic leads out the Stars and Stripes in a huge final group matchup against Turkey, Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern on Fox.
Doctors say having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care and pharmacy at home. Let me bring in Dr. McCullough to explain more.
Most people know when they're getting sick, but waiting to see a doctor is often too late.
So the key is having medicines before you need them.
Yes, and it includes doctor-prescribed medicines to treat common and serious issues like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, antibiotics, antivirals for flu, pneumonia, strep, ear and sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
So it is like having an urgent care at home.
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications and hospitalizations.
How do you know what to take?
Just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Great advice. I understand ordering is fast online, and we've put the website and $45 off code on the screen. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
Finally, it's about time. America just launched their first mine for critical minerals in Africa in well over a decade. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, cobalt, copper, a few other critical minerals that we actually need for stuff. But why do we care? Good question. Remember how I told you that this Iran deal had more to do with testing China's supply lines and breaking OPEC than actually keeping Iran from getting a nuke? Well, here you go. You see, China controls roughly 80% of the world's cobalt production, of which is mined almost exclusively in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Cobalt is a critical mineral for all of our electronics. Cell phones, cars, fighter jets, missiles, basically anything with a microchip requires cobalt. China, via their Belt and Road Initiative, which was their effort to expand Chinese interests globally, has been draining Africa's resources for like 15 to 20 years. While America, we were just pumping money into Africa for what we thought was humanitarian crises, like $2 trillion over the last few years, by the way. Often ends up covering the cost of some of the things that China are stealing from those countries in the first place, while they build subpar infrastructure too. So China was spending billions of dollars in leveraged debt in third world countries, resource-rich third world countries in Africa, to corner the market on critical minerals because they knew we weren't going to go in there. America under Biden literally just sat there and let this happen, probably because China donated $50 million or so to the Penn Biden Center. But meanwhile, China was investing in infrastructure in these war-torn countries in exchange for all the mining rights. And the warlords were actually protecting China's mining interests. Because of money, obviously. This is another part of the Trump global peace push. See, China didn't care about these warlords because they used their government to pump these resources out of those countries, and they were just willing to shoot these militias who threaten them or bribe them or whatever. So American companies were more risk averse here. So we didn't want to generally go in and operate mines in war zones. So in December, Trump signed the Washington Accords, which ended fighting in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Oh, you didn't hear about it? That's so weird because no one thought it was a big deal. In fact, the left questioned its importance.
I would argue that the president's promises and statements that he has already ended the war between DRC and Rwanda ring hollow, when we are in fact not seeing peace or stability on the ground at all.
But we were, because, oops, turns out with this whole thing, we just crushed China's near global monopoly on the cobalt industry. But yet the legacy media is reporting on like algae on cameras, by the way, that require cobalt to be built. And the reason that Trump was able to get American companies into the DRC now was because not only that peace agreement, but because China was so overextended with their Belt and Road Initiative of the last 15 years that they were already having a hard time maintaining control on all of these different mines and resources in other countries. So when Trump cut off all their oil from Venezuela and Iran, China didn't have the means to compete against us as our mining companies started planning to move into there. And would it shock you to consider for half a second, Libs, that Iran wasn't the single target of the Iran operation? Sure, look, Iran not getting a nuke is the bonus prize. But maybe, I'm just asking, was the plan all along to shrink China's global influence by depriving them of 25% of their oil, start manufacturing things back here in America, like he talked about today at the Mack truck plant, to break the exports from China, and then break OPEC's alliance, because the need for oil, we need other countries too, but all this made America the superpower again. I don't know. I'm just a casual observer, so I could be wrong, but you think that the reason we have heard maybe so little about the Trump-Xi meeting is that Trump probably walked in there and did all this behind closed doors in order to allow Xi Jinping to save face globally by not touting all the American superiority and only talking about Iran in exchange for some cooperation on trade from Xi. You think Trump might have mentioned to Xi in that meeting that the only reason, I don't know, Putin hasn't advanced in certain regions of Ukraine right now is because maybe a deal was made with Putin to unfreeze assets and relieve sanctions on Russia if he left the areas of Ukraine alone that process neon? What the hell is neon and why do we care? Oh, yeah, fun fact. Ukraine produces 70% of the world's neon. It's also the one thing that is absolutely critical for Taiwan's microchip industry. And it's the one critical product that helps them maintain their independence from China. Again, I'm just over here noticing things that seemingly no one else even thinks is a big deal. That are just, realigning global dominance. No big deal. Everyone else is just reporting on the last bomb that was dropped on Iran. And most of the media is so consumed with Trump hate that they failed to notice all the other things that the Iran conflict is just, I think, cover for. Look, I hate the term 4D chess because it's usually stupid people using it to try to explain things they don't understand. But I don't know. Maybe Trump knows a thing or two about what he's doing. Just saying. Anyway, before we go, corporate exits show a pattern Republicans really should be capitalizing on. Wake up, people. That's next.
The press won't report the real story.
The American people are actually very smart.
Ridiculous statements.
These guys are just plain weird.
Actual scandals.
Even the immunity decision. I mean, that decision was so misreported.
That's my job, and I aim to do it every night.
Pop up the volume.
Go ahead. Crank the volume. We got you. USPS has increased daily package processing capacity by 46% in the past 5 years. And with USPS Ground Advantage, your packages stay in our secure network, dock to door, nationwide. For full visibility, near real-time tracking, affordable pricing, for peace of mind. USPS Ground Advantage.
The pain is gone. It's gone. I was wheeled in. I couldn't even move 5 feet without the wheelchair. I was in awful pain.
Are you able to get onto the bed?
I doubt it.
No?
We went through the whole intake interview, did the MRI, x-rays. I was awake through the surgery, came back to recovery. I was there for 10 minutes, and I got up and I walked.
Bonatti succeeds where others fail.
Life with ear ringing sounded like a constant train whistle I couldn't escape. Then I started taking lipoflavonoid. With 60 years of clinical experience, it's the #1 doctor-recommended brand for ear ringing. And now I'm finally free. Take back control with lipoflavonoid.
People always ask, why Patriot Gold Group? With over 10,000 clients to date and over $1 billion in transactions, not a single complaint on the Better Business Bureau. Consumer Affairs top rated for 9 years in a row. Over 2,000 5-star reviews. The only company nationwide where you, the client, work directly with an owner. Home of the no fee for life IRA. Gold is up 80% in the last 28 months, 275% since Lehman Brothers collapsed. We are patriots protecting patriots. Give Patriot Gold Group a call at 888-528-4290 before it's too late. Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer 9 years in a row. Call now, 888-528-4290.
Forget the warm-up. DirecTV got hot. They're on fire with more MLB games than anyone. Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
How old are you?
11.
This is a bottlenose dolphin, and this is the breakthrough nutrient doctors discovered that helped dolphins age healthier. Now, over 100 peer-reviewed studies later, it can help you age healthier too. Discover how at fatty15.com.
Just in time for our country's big celebration, the Kids Guide to America's 250th birthday is here, and it's free. Give your kids this epic story of freedom, heroes, and fireworks. Get it at freeusagift.com. That's freeusagift.com.
Now, tirzepatide for weight management is available in a dissolvable tablet. It's not the injection and doesn't offer the same strength or clinical evidence as the injectable form, and results will differ from the injection. But for patients who don't want shots, this tablet option is worth exploring. Understanding results will differ from the injection. Tirzepatide tablets are a prescription that starts with a telehealth evaluation by a licensed physician who reviews your health history. And if it's right for you, they prescribe it. This might be worth a conversation.
Shocker, the regulatory environment in Washington state with Democrats is driving notable businesses out of the state. We told you this. This is just one of many. Remember this? We told you about Starbucks plan to relocate like 2,000 corporate people, IT and supply chain management and jobs to Nashville. Well, now we have Janicki or something like that, the industries that they've been supplying critical items and a lot of stuff to Boeing for their Dreamliners and fighter jets and even NASA for 33 years. Now, they just took a massive $800 million expansion package and 2,000 future jobs out of Seattle and went to Montana. And they said it was due to crushing regulations, skyrocketing taxes, and hostile policies. Great. Look, Montana, red, jobs, gets them. But, like, why aren't blue state Republicans running on this platform? Starbucks, Janicki, the tech startups, they're fleeing Washington and their high-tech and high-tax environments, just like New Jersey, New York, California, Illinois. The GOP should be out there being like, dude, guys, Washington lost, like, what, 81 companies, 17,000 jobs? Maybe they should be running on that in Seattle rather than complaining about crack pipe vending machines, Rob.
It's not a bad thought. It's amazing to see the exodus from these states and that people can't figure out what this is, that their voters and these politicians can't figure out why everyone leaves these blue states. It's amazing to me.
Word.
Carl, good to see you.
All right. One of the most corrupt members of Congress steps into it.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.